As we continue on our busy lives out there across vast swaths of the Earth's surface, the situation for sharks is absolutely horrendous. It's something we've talked about before on the Damage Report. An upcoming documentary, Sharkwater Extinction, makes clear how bad the situation actually is. The tragedy, the situation facing sharks, and a tragedy in the actual filming of the documentary as well. And joining us now to help talk about that documentary is cinematic activist Brock Cahill. Brock, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John.
Very glad to have you here. So I was able to watch the documentary. I was just awestruck by some of the numbers that are thrown around in the number of sharks that are killed every year, the trade in shark fins that continues to this day. So I want to get into all of that. I want people to understand the numbers. But in terms of your involvement in this documentary, your relationship with the creator of the documentary, can you walk us through how that actually developed?
Sure. Well, Rob Stewart was a great friend and dear friend of mine for many, many years. And when he first released his film Sharkwater, it's over 10 years ago now, about 11 or 12 years ago, I saw it and I was completely moved by the situation. And like you, shocked by the numbers and by the things that were happening out in the world. And I said, I gotta get involved in this situation and help out. So out of the blue, I kind of cold called him. And I was like, hey dude,
really?
Yeah, I live in LA, I'm a yoga teacher. Is there anything a guy like me can do to help you? And he's like, absolutely. You know, what are your passions? What are you involved in? And I was like, I like sharks a lot. I swim in the ocean regularly. So if I can help in any way, it would be great. And he's like, yeah, teach me yoga. And so I started teaching him yoga and he eventually moved to Los Angeles. We swam with sharks for the last 10 years together.
Yeah.
And in that process, you know, of course, we've done our best to throw our hats into the ring to enlighten the public to the challenges that are facing them and try to help them overcome some of these obstacles.
Yeah, yeah, and so in this topic, there's a lot of ignorance. I include myself in the group that is largely ignorant of a lot of this, partially that I know in the documentary, Rob talks about wanting to change the public perception of sharks.
Yeah.
That they are not the killing machines that they're portrayed as in movies. But I'm aware of that, and I'm still scared of them. Sure. I know that the numbers don't bear it out. When the actual numbers that should scare us are the numbers that are cited in the film: 100 to 150 million sharks killed. That is considered a conservative estimate.
Yes.
It sounds insane. I don't know how that's actually possible. But also in the documentary, they the crew goes to the site of a seizure of shark fins.
Yes.
These massive bags. What was it like to be exposed to how large this trade is, the scale it operates on?
I mean, it's mind-blowing, like you say, to see these kind of numbers and then to see it play out on the floor of, you know, a place in Panama or in Costa Rica or in Cabo Verde, and all the locations that you see in the film. It just is, it's shocking, you know, and you can't get over the fact that this amount of biomass is being taken out of the ocean, of the most important apex predator that we have on the planet. Because, you know, love them or hate them, we all need sharks. They are a keystone species that are necessary for the rest of the species on this planet to survive. They control the ecosystem of the ocean, which gives us well over 70% of the oxygen that we breathe. So, you know, even if, you know, you're freaked out by sharks because Jaws came along and changed everybody's perception of what these fish were doing, you know, we have to have them. That's just that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and certainly if they are being wiped out, how can we allow that to go on without us even acknowledging that it's happening?
We can't.
On the scale that it is.
And people like you and people like Rob and people like myself will step forward and say, listen folks, this is not the case. You've been fed a line of BS and now we have to make sure that you recognize what the truth is. And we feel like if people know the truth that they'll make better decisions and they'll stand up. And there's a lot of people that are actually loving sharks these days. You know, you'll see love for sharks all over social media, and now they're starting to be respected in films a little bit more so. And I think that's due in large part to Rob Stewart and his efforts.
Yeah, and let's talk about those efforts too, because one of the sort of constant themes throughout the documentary, at least the first 2/3 of the documentary, is that doing this sort of work where they're going to these different countries, they're investigating the trade, is not a safe thing that you can just do. They're sending drones into areas because they can't go there. There's worries about being shot. What was it like for the team to operate, never knowing what sort of personal danger that they could face simply by shedding light on this?
Yeah, it was, I mean, it's freaky to tell you the absolute truth. You know, you walk into a hotel, and we're staying at a hotel that's owned by the people that run the shark fin mafia. And so they have our passports at the desk, and you never know what's gonna happen. You just don't. People disappear over kind of things like this. But we always had these conversations, Rob and I, over the course of a decade of like, well, it's dangerous, but it doesn't mean we're not going to do it. We have to put our best foot forward, and this is what we care about. So, you know, whether or not it treads a line of like, uh-oh, well, we're going to go anyway. You know, so it's challenging, but it's something that we believe wholeheartedly in.
Yeah, and I think that the activists, both that you see on screen and those, you know, not as part of the team, deserve a ton of credit. That there's one member of the team who has to flee with fear of death threats. There's one of your sources is saying he can't identify a businessman because he's concerned about being killed over it. So just an amazing, not just the natural sort of consequences are stark and crazy, but the sort of organized crime element of it is something that I had not been familiar with. But one other aspect of the movie that we have to talk about is that obviously there was a tragedy during the filming and creation of the documentary, and that was the death of Rob, tragically, a couple of years ago. Could you talk about the experience of that happening and then also how the project developed afterward?
Sure. It's actually 2 years ago to the day. This was the day that we were going out in Florida, and his passing is tomorrow. That's the anniversary, and we're releasing the film on his 2nd anniversary to celebrate his life and all of his efforts. And of course, it's wrought with emotion, as you can imagine, and losing a hero and a best friend and a son and a brother and on all the things that Rob was to all of these people that will be here tomorrow for this celebration. So in that process, it was excruciating, you know, to lose someone with that much light and that much positivity that works so hard for these animals that don't have a voice. And that's just on a personal level, but then, you know, on a professional level, trying to pull the project together after we lose our hero and our narrator and everything else, and not being, you know, complete with the film. I'd say we were halfway done, probably, maybe a little bit further than halfway done. It was really challenging to pull it together by the bootstraps and get it finished. But with an amazing team and his family, his parents, Brian and Sandy Stewart, that stepped forward, we were able to go back through the library and the archives and have Rob narrate the entire film. And that's a beautiful, beautiful final message, if you will, and a beautiful legacy for him to leave. And whilst the film is, of course, hard-hitting on all the issues that are surrounding sharks, I believe it's also a really beautiful tribute to a good human being.
And a continuation of the message that he relayed, not just in the film, but in many of his speeches and writing and all of that, that he believes that everyone has the ability to be a hero about topics that they're passionate about. I mean, he talks about that in his narration. There's sections where he talks about not being scared of his own death that are both haunting but also inspirational, that he was pursuing at constant risk, not just during the dives, but even as we were saying, on the on-land portions. But not being scared off from doing what he felt like he needed to do. So in the end, it's obviously a tragic story, but it's an incredibly inspirational story as well.
It is, you know, I can't think of a more romantic or heroic story than somebody that gives everything that they have and that they are for what they believe in. And he paid the ultimate sacrifice, to be honest with you. You know, he gave everything that was him to this cause, and he was willing to put it all on the line for it. And you know, there's not that many people that are willing to do such things, that are willing to put themselves at extreme risk to make sure that we have an opportunity to save these animals and to better humanity. And he, like you said, he believed that there's ways to do this, to lift up, to be a hero for what you believe in, and he's a prime example of it, you know? And as you say, people ask me all the time, is it really dangerous swimming with sharks? And like you say, the most dangerous part of our job is usually when we're on land somewhere in a sketchy situation. Getting in the water with sharks is the fun part and the payoff.
Well, so I can't guarantee I ever will, but this movie has brought me closer to it. And it is certainly a fitting tribute to his life and to his work. As you said, it's gonna be available digital and on demand in the US February 1st, which is like immediately when you're watching this online, and Canada February 5th. I also want to say, I always hope that people can leave these sorts of things with something they can do about it. So there's also sharkwater.com. I know that you have suggestions for not just how people can educate themselves, but what they can do to help correct this situation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're diving into the realm of shark not just being used for shark fin soup, but what else is happening with these shark products. And we're finding that it's ending up in fertilizer and pet food and cosmetics and even food for human consumption, which is not safe at all. It's really high in, you know, pollution, chemical waste, neurotoxins, and all kinds of different things. But it's being mislabeled and fed to us as rock salmon, flake, fish and chips. All
incredibly deceptive.
Incredibly deceptive. As you know, that's a hot topic. Mislabeling food in the States and worldwide is a massive conundrum. So we're doing our best to uncover this, and people can find out more on the website.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll watch the film. So Sharkwater Extinction, as well as, by the way, you should look up the past documentaries, including Sharkwater.
Yep, and Rob's second film is called Revolution, and it deals with the state of the environment and what's going on and how we can change, our processes and our patterns to hopefully make a better impact.
Well, Brock, thank you so much for joining us, helping shed light on this situation. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with the film. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.